Okay, hello guys, boys and girls. Again, welcome back to my channel. Yeah, today I put the camera in a little bit of a different spot. Hopefully, everything will be okay. As you know, guys, I'm not going to review. I'm going to review the semi-final games in the Asia Cup after they're finished. So they still have about an hour left to go to play those games. So for today, for this video, I'm just going to review another three completed games from the New Zealand NBL. Now, New Zealand League, yeah, some of you guys might find it to be a little bit of a weak league. Yeah, it's like I said at the beginning of my reviews, it's a league basically that's frozen in the 90s, so it's a league of the 90s. So if you don't enjoy, classic nostalgic basketball, you will probably not enjoy the New Zealand Basketball League. But sometimes there can be interesting games. So I'm going to start by looking at the three games that have recently finished in the league. The first game is between the Southland Sharks and the Taranaki Airs. Now here we can say, I think, in the New Zealand NBL we can clearly say that the Airs team, the Taranaki Airs, they have the best imported players. Imported players are basically players from America or different countries, and Airs have three of the best. They have Sean Willett and Anthony Hilliard and Javonte Douglas, all very solid basketball players. In the Sharks team, the player Mojave King impresses me really very much. He's a very good young player. He has a very good future ahead of him. He's a very good scorer, very good passer. He can get triple doubles. He's a very athletic player. He can dunk. He can do the slam and basically like that. Okay, now is this video a little bit dark? No, I think it's okay. It's okay. So there's also another interesting player in the Sharks squad, a player called Romero Gill. He is the tallest player in the currently in the New Zealand Basketball League. He's 2 meters 18, but I think being that tall of a player, he so far he has been a very useless player. I mean, from a guy that tall, you expect him to be dominant in the rebounds or dominant in the paint in terms of scoring, but no. Until this game, actually, I think he was very ineffective in general as a player for this Sharks team. Davison, there's a guy called Davison in the Airs team. Davison is one of my favorites. If they ever in the future decide to do like a slam dunk contest in the New Zealand League, Davison should definitely participate. He's such a high flying, such an athletic guy. Of course, he needs to develop his shooting abilities a little bit more, but whenever he's on the court, he actually makes the game watchable because of his athletic prowess and his spectacular moves, basically. So he's also a cool player to have on your team. Airs, during this game, Airs basically had so much highlight plays, so much plays over the rim. So in terms of that, they were very successful. And they seem to me to be enjoying the game, especially in the first 3-4 quarters. They were really enjoying the game, and this enjoyment actually resulted in them having these very solid highlight moves all throughout the game. But like I said, they have very athletic players in general, so you can expect at least a several couple of athletic moves in every Airs game in the league. Now, of course, I talked about this before again. The bad foul shooting continues in the league. This is I said in my previous video of my analysis of the New Zealand League is the it's like a problem of the whole New Zealand Basketball League. For some reason, I think players don't want to concentrate too much on in the during the free throws. So yeah, they really suck at free throws, in general. So and this is true for all the teams basically in the league. Just not just one or two teams, but usually all of them. have trouble knocking down the free throws. And yeah, unfortunately for the Sharks, well, if we have to talk about the Sharks team, Southland Sharks, they are at the bottom of the barrel, bottom of the league table, and unfortunately they don't have any chance of continuing on to the playoffs anymore. In the New Zealand League, as I said before, the first 6 teams in the table move on to the playoffs. The first 2 teams actually directly go to the playoff finals, semifinals, I think, and the other 4 teams, they play games among themselves to determine which other teams will continue with the semifinals, basically with the final 4. And second half, actually, it was an interesting game. In the first half, Airs dominated, but in the second half, Sharks actually took over the game very, very much. This was actually a very important game for Airs in terms of their chance for the first 6. But especially in the second half, the defensive intensity of Airs was down very much. I mean, and they didn't score as effectively. Sharks did a good job covering the scorer American players. And it was actually one of the best games I've seen in the New Zealand NBL for some time. It was an excellent comeback, especially the scoring players of Sharks, players like Brandon Inger, Tayshaun Knight. They helped in the comeback for the Sharks, and it was actually the best game of Romero Gill as well. So he also helped in this comeback for the Sharks. In terms of statistics, Tayshaun Knight played with 22 points. Hilliard in the Airs played with 23 points. Brandon Inger again for the Sharks had 12 points. I think he was the hero of the second half because basically his 3 point his 3 points actually helped, especially at the beginning of the third quarter. The 3 points that Brandon Inger made helped Sharks get back into the game, and Sharks ended up winning the game 81-74. And it's interesting. One thing I recognized about the Shark team is they started to play better once the pressure was over off of the team. Once they their spot was clear. Once the pressure was off, they started playing really, really well. I think it's important in terms of a basketball player to have his or her head clear so they can play a better game. And unfortunately for Airs, they lost a very, very important game in terms of their chances for the first 6. And the second game of round 13 that in the NBL that I'm going to analyze very quickly is between the Jets, Manawatu Jets, and the Wellington Saints. This was a very one-sided game. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because of this. Jets is at the very bottom of the. Of course, when we talk about the Jets team, we have to realize the fact that they're a very, very young team. They started with a young roster at the beginning. They did get some very quality imports during the year, but still, if the root of your team is young, you have to give them several years to develop as very efficient basketball players. But they also played several very good games as well. So I can see, and they got several excellent wins. So for the future, I can see a very bright, very optimistic future for the Jets team if they can keep the youth in the team, and again provide them with assistance with quality imported players. I think they will have in the future. They will continue to have a very solid, very nice team. Uh, of course, the first half score of the game was it was a very one-sided game altogether. I mean, the first half finished 61-24 against the Jets. So Jets was 24, Saints was 61. Also, of course, one of the biggest problems specifically for this game for the Jets was one of their best players in the paint. Najdawi, he's a player that I like. He has very big hustle. He can get the rebounds. He can score. He was missing with a hand injury, so it's a very important omission for the Jets team, and I think it cost them very much in this game. Robert Crawford, also again one of my favorite imports this year. He's an excellent player. I mean, even when the team is down like 60, 50, 60 points or 40, 50 points, Crawford doesn't stop playing. You know, he continues his playing. He attacks the ball. He wants to score. You know, and so he's basically just. I think he's the template of how every basketball player should generally be in terms of their mindset, you know, even when they're losing, even when they're losing in a, you know, very one-sided manner. Crawford doesn't give up at all, so it's a very important trait, I think, for a basketball player. I talked about there being no Najdavi, so the final score of this game was Saints 109 and Jets 70. And the last game I'm going to talk about for this video session just recently finished. It was the one between Canterbury Rams and the Nelson Giants. The Rams for this game, they had actually quite a bit of missing players. Sunday Dech, very important. Sunday Dech, if you follow world basketball, he plays for South Sudan. He played for South Sudan in the basically World Cup qualifiers, and he was I think one of the MVPs for the South Sudan team in the last window of the World Cup qualifiers. So he wasn't playing. Max Darling and Taylor Britt, they're both with the New Zealand national team, the Tall Blacks, playing in the Asia Cup, so they couldn't play for the Canterbury Rams. So yeah, this was actually very difficult. This made it very difficult for very difficult situation for the Rams. But they actually played kind of effectively up until the last 2-3 minutes of the game. So, of course, oppositely, if we talk about the Giants team, and the Giants, they, you know, it's very funny. Giants have in their roster Alonzo Mourning the third, and sometimes I wonder to myself, you know, Alonzo Mourning the third is the son of NBA legend Alonzo Mourning, the Miami Heat legend, also a Hall of Famer. And sometimes I wonder, why would a guy like, you know, who's the son of Alonzo Mourning, an NBA legend, why would he play in a league like the New Zealand League? And then I say to myself, you know, I try to find the answer. Maybe because he just enjoys it, and maybe, you know, he can develop his skills a little bit more, you know, in a kind of like a bottom tier league, and then after, you know, this development, he can go out maybe into bigger leagues as well. Also, another theory that I have is, you know, basically at the beginning I said New Zealand League is like the league of the 90s, and you know, Alonzo Mourning's father, Alonzo Mourning Jr.'s father, Alonzo Mourning, he became a very successful basketball player, NBA player in the 90s. So maybe Mourning Jr. also looks for that 90s style basketball that he knows he can be successful like his father, and he found that basketball in the New Zealand League. Maybe we can say that's also part of it. Okay, so the key players, I think, for the Nelson Giants team, we can say Trey Morning, Sam Dempster, and Jarrett West. Out of the these three players, Trey Morning and Jarrett West actually played good games. Morning finished, I think, with 20 points, 10 rebounds, a double-double. West also scored very critical 3 points during the last parts of the game, and won the game for his team. Interestingly, there was a surprise scorer for the Giants team, especially in the first 3 quarters. Sam Thompson, the other American player, he actually, I think, finished the game with 27 points. Again, very good scoring performance from him. Nick Threaton for the Giants played very effectively in the second quarter. He scored a couple of 3 points. The free throw problem that I mentioned earlier continued in this game as well. For the Rams, their best player was definitely Larry Austin, their American player. Interestingly, he's like a very short point guard, but he ended up having a double double in the game, but not in the assist, but in terms of points and rebounds. So you would expect a point guard to basically have a double double in terms of points and assists, but here Austin actually had a double double in terms of points and rebounds. He goes to show that Austin is a very strong player, and he's also a very fast player who likes to attack the basket and get the rebounds as well. And so the final score of the game was basically Giants beat the Rams 85 to 74. Uh, we have about, I think, an hour remaining for to start off the semifinal games of the FIBA Asia Cup, and when those games finish, I will continue making my video reviews about those games as well. So yeah, currently I'm looking forward to those games. They should be very thrilling, very good games. And I will see you guys in my next videos. So take care for now, and the king is out.